Hey there everyone, it's Val, and welcome back to Tolkiencraft II, The Labors of Valentine. Today's tour, I spent all today working on the blood magic altar, and I'll show you what I'd done. It probably doesn't look much different from yesterday. Ignore that thing that you probably just saw out of the corner of your eye there. I'll show you that in a second. Um, Currently, yes, my altar is filling up quite nicely. And as you notice, I don't have a blood barrel here anymore, so you might be wondering, well, where is all that lovely blood coming from? And where did the 268,000 LP in my network come from? Well, I'm going to show you that. That would be downstairs here. Just pop down here. I have spent the day getting a Well of Suffering set up. So here is the ritual, the Well of Suffering ritual, located directly under my altar. And then just below that, you'll notice I have, well, a lot of witches. I have a stabilized draconic spawner in there, set to ignore player requirements. So it doesn't matter if I'm nearby or not, it's going to be spawning witches. I also do not have, or have it set to ignore spawning requirements. So ignore player requirements and ignore spawning requirements. So it doesn't matter that it's light in there, they're still going to spawn anyway. And because it's light in there, we're not going to get anything but witches, which is what we want, because they're healing themselves back up. And in fact, pretty much, I think I'm just letting the altar itself fill up, and then I'm probably going to turn this off until such time as I'm ready to have a constant flow of blood coming into the network. Right now, we don't really need that. But, well, this is one of the pieces of things I wanted to get set up. And, yeah, because they're not dying at all. Because they just keep healing themselves. Interesting. Does mean I might have to tweak what I have this set to. Maybe I'll have to change it so it only spawns them when I'm nearby. And that way we don't have an issue with 3 million witches down here because they're not actually dying. They just keep healing themselves up. Interesting. Alrighty. Anyway, I've got a witch spawner control here, and I'm just going to turn that puppy off. Which means these guys will despawn at some point once I'm far enough away. I think. Unless... yeah. That's one thing that I don't know about how the stabilized spawners work. Is I know that it means I don't have to be right beside it. The chunk just has to be loaded for them to spawn. But I don't know if you actually have to be close by for them to then not despawn, or whether they'll automatically despawn following normal rules after a short period of time. Interesting. Never thought about that before, because normally you would have a mob grinder here promptly killing them, so it wouldn't matter if they were going to despawn shortly thereafter because, well, they're already dead. But in this case, they're not being killed by a mob grinder, and I don't know if they just continue to accumulate even though I'm not here. Interesting. That's a concern. Alright, well, it's off. They will hopefully despawn. If not, then I'll keep the current ones in there. In fact, we could test that. Let's fly enough far away and see if they go away. I want to find out. Shouldn't take too long of a trip. I'd say this ought to be plenty far enough, don't you? Let's make sure I don't get lost here. I need to head north. Alright, let's go north. And let's see if the Witches are all gone. Aside from the zombie in the water, whom I'm going to ignore because he's a new spawn. They're all gone. Okay, good. That relieves my mind. Not going to have an issue with the witches accumulating. So if you look at this, ignore spawn requirements. True. Doesn't require a player. Oops, that's not what I meant to hit. There we go. Requires player false. Awesome. But they will despawn. They don't just keep accumulating. Wonderful. So that's what I spent the majority of today doing. But in preparation for that, I also did this. I measured out basically 3 areas where we can set rituals up out here for various purposes to be determined. These are just marking the center of potential future ones. But I knew I needed the one. This is the binding ritual, so I went ahead and I set this up and made myself a sword, a bound sword, or a bound blade, I think it's called actually. Where is it? There it is, bound blade. And we use that to get our weak blood shards, which I currently don't need any of, but we do need the sword when I need to get some more. Alright, so this altar is full, and well, like I said, if I click in the air, you can see that I have over a 250,000 life points in my pool, and that was just letting this run for about 10 minutes. So, yeah. I'm quite happy. Quite happy with how it's worked out. Well, that's about it. Oh, wait, actually, I do have one more thing to show you. Almost forgot. Actually, I guess I should show you what I'm doing if any witches do happen to die in there. So I will show you that in a moment here, but let's just go here. Yeah, I am collecting, or attempting to collect, emeralds that can be shed from villagers, courtesy of Botania. Now, I'm not sure which villagers are dropping them, but I was gifted 2 villager spawn eggs, and I managed to rescue one who had been diseased and cured him. Really? Do I have to put safety guide rails on these things too? These guys just like to run around like mad. I've already had to put one in a hole and throw a healing potion on him. And it looks like I'm gonna have to safety proof this as well. Dang it. Anyway, they are dropping emeralds, and that's the main thing. Yeah. One of these guys, this is the guy that was a zombie, and I cured him. And this is the guy that came from the spawn egg. And apparently, even as a zombie, you weren't that bright. Yeah, well. I will fix that after the tour. Alright, let's go show you the other part that I neglected to show you. The part where we collect the goods from the witches if they happen to die. Which, since they keep healing themselves, doesn't seem really likely, to be quite honest. Alright, so down here, just like in the mob farm, I have a double method of capturing things. I have the vacuum hopper, whose purpose is to collect essence, the XP essence, and put it into the ender tank so it'll get sent to my collection area. which I think I've explained before. And it's also any items that it happens to pick up, it will also put into this ender chest, which is going directly into my AE system. The Hopper Hawk, the reason I still have the Hopper Hawk here is it has a bigger reach than the vacuum hopper. Even without mana, it has a bigger reach. With mana, it has a much bigger reach. But we don't really need to give it mana because it's doing quite well for the area that the witches are in. Just all by its lonesome. So it can pick things up in the corner. I mean, not experience balls, but it can pick items up in the corners that the vacuum hopper can't quite reach. So having them both there actually works out very nicely. Now, that said, anyway, here you can see the wiring that I'm using to control the spawner up there. It just runs up and outside up to that lever you saw up there, and attached to the light as well, so we can see if the system is currently on or off. But like I said, if the witches aren't actually dying, then that elaborate setup really isn't necessary, or we'll see very little use. But I thought it was going to kill them regularly, so I set up basically an ME drive over here. It has a priority of +10, which makes it the most important destination. And I have a partitioned storage cell in here, and it is going to hold the witch drops. It's 64K, so it should have plenty of room. And if I find that there's other witch drops that I haven't put on here, then I will add them at a later date. And that way, my storage barrels in the basement, which also can have witch drops going to them, because I have a witch spawner in my mob farm as well, the storage barrels won't fill up first. They will fill up second. So this one would have to fill up first before the ones in the basement would get overflow. Now, like I said, I thought that the witches would probably be dying pretty regularly, but they're healing themselves, and so I don't know if they're actually ever going to die. And, well, this particular card here may not see a lot of use for a while yet. Not until I transition my system downstairs to go into the AE system directly, which eventually will come, but I'm not ready to do that yet. Yeah. All right, I think that's everything. I think that's everything that I worked on today. And I mean, externally it doesn't look like much. All you can see is that disc, but internally it's a lot of, I guess you would say, structural work that is going to let me do more things with Botania. And, well, I'll explain that in a future end of the day tour when I've actually made use of the blood magic rituals for Botania. In any case, I think I'm going to stop rambling on. I tend to do that when I'm tired. That's why my end of the day tours tend to sound rather rambly. But I'm going to cut myself off at the pass and say thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tour, and I hope to see you in the stream sometime. You all take care now. Bye.